Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Thrive in Grace. We're very excited for this, aren't we, Abi?
This is the one we've been bigging up for a while.
We've been bigging it up, and if you are on the YouTube, you may have noticed that we're not alone. So we are here with Zac and Nat from We Out Here Provibing. Give us a hello.
Hello.
Great. But we are going to dive in to our final episode of the series, What We Learned in Youth. But first, Zac and Nat, we want you to introduce yourselves, say your name, what you do, but we're going to throw in one of Abi's weird questions. Take it away, Abs.
Good.
So, my question this week, I've actually had this in my mind for a couple of weeks, and it is, if you could only have one condiment sauce spread for the rest of your life, just one, what would it be?
Oh,
It's tricky, I know. Ellie, do you want to quickly say yours whilst they're thinking? Because I prepped Ellie on this one.
You did, but I can't decide. Ketchup on everything, but then you can't put ketchup on something sweet, and I love Biscoff spreads, so I'm going to have to go with Biscoff spread because that'll go on anything.
Yeah. I'm a ketchup gal, so I've gone ketchup with mine.
She puts ketchup on cucumbers. That's weird.
oof, you're a wrong'un.
No, it's good. Don't hate it till you try it.
Fair enough. That's such a hard question. All right. I'll say it, but you can say if it doesn't count because it's very borderline. Does hummus count?
Let's say it does.
I'll let it count.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does. I'm going to go hummus because very versatile. It can go on anything. Toasted naan bread and hummus is my favourite combination.
Never would have thought that.
Toasted naan bread. Okay. And
Straight out the toaster, bit of cold hummus on it. Beautiful.
Wow.
okay. I see. I'll go on that. Go on.
You know what? Okay, I've thought of one. I think sriracha. Because
Okay.
Hear me out. Because
spicy.
it goes. I'm a little bit. No, I'm joking. It goes on scrambled eggs, and it goes on the little parcel pasta that you get from Tesco's. What's that called? Tortellini. It goes on that as well. It's so good.
Okay. I've never tried that.
On
Sriracha
pizza as well. Really good.
These are so exotic.
These are great answers. Also, obviously you're Zac and Nat, but give us a little bit of who you are, what you do.
I'm Zac. I am a third year physio student at Cardiff University, and I go to Vineyard Church. I'm living in Cardiff at the moment. That's me.
Lovely.
And I'm Nat. I'm a third year medical student at Cardiff University. I also go to Vineyard, also living in Cardiff at the moment. Although right now, this background, I'm currently in Wrexham in placement in North Wales. So yeah,
living the life.
I just had to say, not my background.
I was just like, I have better curtains at home, but there we are.
Perfect. Well, we're very excited that you guys are here. What we're going to dive into, I feel like in youth, so if you didn't know, we're in our series of What We Learned in Youth, and this is the final one. And I feel like gal-guy relationships, friendships, is interesting at youth. Wouldn't you agree, Abi?
Yes, definitely.
We went through some stuff.
Yeah.
But I think what both podcasts have a heart for is doing friendships well and honouring each other in them, no matter whether it's a girl-guy relationship, a guy-guy relationship, a gal-gal relationship. We love it. So I guess we want to dive into that more. So Abi, do you want to take us away?
Yes, I'll take us away with our first question. So basically our idea for this is we're going to ask the guys a few questions and get their insight of how us as women, because we know most of our listeners are female, how we can really honour our guy friends. So first of all, just start off with, do you think that girls and guys can be friends?
Quick answer, yes.
Right.
Short, long answer, I'll leave to Nat.
I'm joking. That's so kind.
That's how we pro-vibe out here. I think, definitely, I think you can. I think I have some great gal pals out there, some great sisters in Christ, you know.
Yes.
But yeah, I definitely think you can, and I think there is a little bit of like, you know, not just stigma, but like, you know, when you're in youth, when you're at uni, there is a little bit of like a thing about guys and girls being friends, and I think it's a territory that can, you know, it does open doors to some misunderstandings or some things, which is, I guess, why we're talking about it today. But I do think absolutely you can. I think when it's done in a way of honoring each other, you know, I think absolutely, yeah. How about you, Zac? What do you think?
Yeah. Firstly, I definitely say it's not a minefield, but it's definitely something that, I don't know about you, but I have gotten wrong many times. I think most of us have, to be honest. It's something that can very easily be misjudged, misinterpreted. It's easy to get wrong, regardless of intentions. No one, you know what I mean? I don't think intentions are about to treat friends badly or to dishonor people, but it's something that is really, really important to learn to do well. And it is a balance because it's someone else's heart that's at stake. Do you know what I mean? And your own.
Definitely.
Do you think when like a girl and a guy, when they kind of become friends, I guess, do you, like, if you have been in that situation, do you feel like a pressure that if you get on well to get into a relationship? I feel like particularly in the church, but I think it is outside, as soon as you start being friends with a guy, like you do start getting the questions and the nudges and like, what if it is just a friendship? You know what I mean?
I think.
Do you feel?
Yeah, I think there's definitely the pressure at the beginning, like when you're starting a friendship with a girl, because that's like, well, what's the trajectory? Is it starting a friendship to be a relationship, or is it starting a friendship to be a friendship? And how do you protect your heart and protect other person's heart at the same time? That for me has been where like I have been misunderstood or misunderstood other people. I would say like knowing how to tiptoe it well, the starting a new friendship with a girl, but it just being a friendship with a girl, because
definitely. I was listening to a podcast, it's the Whoa That's Good podcast, and Ben Stewart was on it, and he said that ambiguity in relationships leads to anxiety, and it's how like in modern relationships and friendships there's no kind of roadmap onto how to do it. You know, like back in my grandpa's day, you get asked to the music hall, like I live for those days, but that's not quite what it is now. So I guess the questions that we want to ask you now, and we are going to do a part 2 on their podcast, kind of looking at the opposite, so stay around for that. But what we want to ask you now, I guess, is like, how can we as girls kind of honor you in those friendships and kind of, I don't know, eliminate some of the ambiguity?
Yes. Our next question then, as you said, one of the key things I think as well that's often misinterpreted is the beginning stages of those friendships, because it's like, are you just trying to get to know me because you want to like date me? Or people can think that from the outside perspective, but actually, how can we pursue friendships well with guys and like try and just really kind of get that clear boundary of this is a friendship, but actually like creating a good solid foundation of that friendship and pursuing it well?
Yeah, like straight off. I like that.
Firstly,
I think,
great question.
Yeah, go for it, Nat.
Sorry. All I was going to say is I think just practical terms, I think one thing I've learned, because as Zac was saying, I think you just do learn these through like either Christian camp, that's a big one, or just youth groups, or at, you know, student communities. I think being in a group setting is a very safe space for friendships to grow. And I think once it goes outside of that, it's like the many more doors open for things to be misunderstood in a way. So I think when you're doing that, I think just being really, really honest with yourself. And I guess, you know, how Abi, you were saying like the pressure, I think, of, you know, the community around you being like, oh, what's going on here? I think to avoid that, if you're both extremely, you know, it goes with the guy as well, we'll talk about it later, but it goes in the sense of really, really in your heart thinking why you want this friendship. I think, you know, although it sounds obvious, it's kind of like is that friendship meeting a need that in that time you want in that moment? I think that's quite a good question to ask. And I think it's just, I think it's just being really, really honest. And when it does step outside of a group setting, so when we're speaking one-on-one, really what's going on, because Ellie, that phrase is so good. It's like when things go when either person is slightly unsure of what's going on, like it's so quick in the succession of it just leading to a bit of a mess. So I think definitely just being honest with yourself is quite a good place in like a group setting. I think is always a good place to start like a really healthy friendship, I think.
Yeah,
definitely.
And to add to that as well, I think being very clear with like kind of like doing a self-assessment of what are your intentions and what, like, are you are you secure in your state, in your singleness? Like, are you low-key seeking because I think if you go with clouded intentions, you set yourself up to like you set yourself up to kind of like fall for someone emotionally if you're not very secure in how you are before the friendship. I can say that from experience, and I can also see it in people around me. I think it's very obvious what your intentions are, because you'll protect your heart a lot more once you know your intentions, and once you're kind of grounded in that. If you're not grounded in it, you can kind of, as Nat mentioned, it can go from 0 to 100 quite quickly, a little bit out of control if you're not like grounded in what you know your intentions are. Have that attitude, kind of that predisposed attitude of no, this is friends, and then let God surprise you if that be it, but not to be seeking something that he's not leading you down in the first place.
100%.
I think
Love
as well, often church and like Christian culture can sometimes like cloud our view of friendships with opposite sex, because it's so like opposite sex is basically you're just trying to find a husband or a wife rather than actually like finding these friendships. So I think it definitely makes it difficult. And as you guys were saying, like about kind of the miss, if you're not clear with your intentions and you're not kind of clear with where you're at and your security and everything, it can quite quickly slip. And I think sometimes where we see that kind of slip is with kind of physical affection and the touchiness and stuff, and often like with your gal pals or with your guy friends, it would be totally normal, and it wouldn't be like, I don't know, you wouldn't like second guess it, like to give your friend a hug or something. But sometimes that can be the things that lead to like confused feelings and all of that. So how do you think like in those relationships we can navigate kind of the physical boundaries in them to make sure that no one gets hurt and no one's feelings get messed around with?
That's
good
another good one.
Yes.
I feel the first thing that popped into my head was always thinking, imagine if your mum was in the same room. It's just like,
Gosh.
no, genuinely though, like it's just like, also friends, if anyone is like, oh, is there something going on, that already should be like something's not normal, you know. I think for people to ask those questions, it's a matter of as we were saying, like a matter of reassessing like genuinely what's going on in the heart, you know, in the heart posture, the kind of thing. Just imagine if your mom was there watching, like would you be very comfortable with what you're doing?
Good point.
Yeah, that's such a good point. That actually reminds me, like when you're talking about like your friends pointing out, it's quite a funny story, but I was on a night out and there was this guy that I was kind of like friends with, but you know when like it's like friends but it's a bit weird, it was kind of like that. And we were on a night out, and just before we left, my friend went to me like, do you want to kiss him? And I was like, no, don't let me, like, no. And we were in the club, and he like we met him in the club, and he came up to me and he like started speaking to me, and I leant in because I couldn't hear him because clubs are really loud, but she misread the situation, bum bounced me onto the floor of a sticky nightclub. I have no idea what I've done wrong to like be on the floor. And I go up and everyone's like, Ellie, you're gonna kiss him? And I was like, no, I literally just couldn't hear, but thanks for your, you know, accountability. I enjoy that. But that is a silly story, but it's such like a good idea of like actually getting your friends to keep you accountable. And like, you know, Abi knows me so well that if like she saw me being like that with another guy, like, and she knew that my intentions weren't like that, actually like having friends around you to kind of keep you accountable is so important in that sort of situation.
I think as well, in terms of like honoring guys physically boundaries and stuff, I think when when there's like a lot of cuddling / friendly hugs, I know that can get a guy confused / mixed messages. That kind of it's the sort of thing that can be taken the wrong way, especially when there's kind of, as we've talked about before, that little bit of unsure where you're actually standing with each other, which is also, and another thing is kind of that needs talking about with each other. But in terms of that, so I agree to, like, hugging when you're saying hello is that doesn't get misinterpreted, but it's that like lots of hug, lots of like, or a touch, like a little touch to the arm or something like that, kind of like you just clock it and you're like, okay, interesting. I don't know. That sort of thing is a bit like, that can give someone who's unsure the wrong messages for sure. It can send someone that, oh, what do they think? And if you yourself aren't sure about it, that's probably going to give you the signals for the wrong message. It's a lot of like subtle things like that. But I think almost as a precursor to that, like that kind of the tricky conversation, like we need to talk, that we're just friends and that's all it is, sort of thing. Really like difficult conversation, but it's one that really needs to be had and done in the right way. Because being completely honest, the main priority is protecting your own heart and the heart of the other person in this situation, which is theoretical, but we all have probably experienced it. And having a conversation where you clearly, so you have a clear understanding of your intentions and your motives, I think, to enable you to a point where you can trust the other person's motives is a game changer, and that's so important.
Yeah, 100%. So we were just talking about this before we pressed record, when it was just the four of us on our pre-bit, and we were saying about these two guys enlightened me at the fact that guys don't like to be called cute, which is news to me. But so I feel like this is a question that I'm literally going to be like, need the answer to. In those friendships, how can girls, like, because I think in girl friendships it's normal to like compliment your friends and all of that and really like boost them up, you know, but how if we were to do that to a guy, it can sometimes cross a bit of a boundary. So how can we do that and also like navigate, I guess, around guys' insecurities as well, because obviously guys have them just as much as girls have them. How can we like navigate those conversations as well?
I think choosing your compliments carefully, and it's a very easy trap to fall into, to compliment things like physical things, as in like physical attributes. I think that's what gets misinterpreted a lot, or that's what can, I don't know, if you get complimented in a way like that, that's the kind of compliment where your mind goes, does this person think that kind of thing. I think it's really like, if a friendship is where you truly care about the person and you put them first, and it's their attributes that aren't necessarily just the ones you see on the outside that you do care about. So kind of complimenting those rather than just being like you can do the wrong compliments so easily, and it's so easy to do, but it can really send the wrong messages.
Yeah,
it's all about mixed messages, isn't it?
Yeah.
It really is.
100%. And even like the tone and also the frequency of what you say. Like, we are called by Jesus to build each other up, like obviously absolutely do that, yeah, but like as Zac was saying, like every time you meet them, you know, if you're like, oh, you're really nice, you're really lovely, if you say that every time in that tone, obviously, as Zac was saying, mixed messages vibes, you know. And I think it is like, there's a difference between building someone up. And Ellie, I'm just vibing with what that little quote you said at the start, but like, if you are introducing that level of ambiguity, then it's like you're in a way you're not honoring that person. So I think just being very clear and just being like, I mean, encouragements, yeah, I think if it's based on, as Zac was saying, the inner like emotional attributes of a guy, just being like, oh, you know, thank you so much for what you said, maybe in small group or whatever situation you're in. thank you for that prayer. I think that was really brave. Done. You know, like just done. And it's just like, I think that is like a clear boundary. It's like it's showing like encouragement. It's building that person up, and just leaving it at that. And I guess if whatever platform that's on, face-to-face, messenger or whatever, just doing that, and then, you know, in a group situation, walking away, talking to someone else, leaving it at that. I think if you then go on and then feel like, oh, you're really good at this and this and this, and it's like, obviously for the guy, it's going to build our self-esteem up. It's going to be really nice to hear, but then you're also going to be thinking, oh, she thinks I'm like great about me and stuff. So I guess again, it is just that ambiguity that gets introduced when you're like, oh, they really must like me as a friend, but maybe, you know.
Because I think as well, from a guy's perspective, guys don't really compliment guys like girls compliment girls. That's a bit different. Like I probably don't compliment Nat nearly as enough as you two guys compliment each other, and that's not to say anything about Nat, but that's just like that's what guys are like. So when
it's so true. Cry.
But so as a guy, we don't necessarily get like affirmation through compliments. We get it in other ways. But when a girl compliments, which girls are very used to complimenting each other, it's very like, it's probably more of like than a girl getting complimented, because you more likely are getting affirmed by your girlfriends anyway. So I think that can be a shock to the system, or taken the wrong way, if suddenly you're receiving a lot of compliments from a girl, where affirmation is lovely, we like it, but guys aren't very quick to compliment guys. But Nat, you do have great skin, by the way.
Oh,
glowing.
We're having a moment here.
Oh wow.
I have like quite a practical question. So if like a man was to compliment me on maybe like my accomplishments, or like, oh, like Ellie, like you played the recorder really well over there. I don't play the recorder. I don't know why that was my go-to example. I wouldn't really think much of it. I would probably be like, oh, okay, cool, thank you. Like, he likes my recorder playing. If he was to like, I don't know, compliment me physically, then I would be like, that's a bit weird, or oh, that's sweet, or that's cute. But is it the same for guys? Like, do you think that if I was to compliment your accomplishments or something that you did, would you still take that as the same way as if I complimented you on your like physical attributes?
That's a good question.
Thank you.
I think guys quite, it's almost maybe I'm just speaking for myself, but I think guys are quite, they like to be the ones doing things, or to have done, it's quite like that's one insecurity of guys, is like not being able to do certain things independently. I feel like they have like we have a desire for like kind of like an independence in doing things, and I think complimenting that can be appreciated sometimes by guys, maybe more than in the context a girl. Again, I'm generalizing very broadly, but also, I don't know, I feel like guys don't give out physical guys probably, if they're going to give out any compliments, it's more like, you did this well, rather than a physical like, oh, you look great, dude. That's a bit rarer, I think. I don't know, Nat, what do you think about that?
I think that is a good question. I think, to put it blunt, yes, I think there is a very big difference in being like, oh, I don't know, what would girls say, like, oh, you have a six-pack, or like, oh, your arms, you know, obviously that would be like, oh, thank you. It would just be like, okay. You know, I think that's just very natural. And I think when it comes to accomplishments, I think it just does tie into like, I think it is important, like, that you do hear those, because as Zac was saying, as a guy, if you don't hear that, just hearing it from a trusted friend who is a girl, like, because that's a gift that girls have, and I think guys have to grow in. I think it is, you know, it's a healthy thing to be gently encouraged in, but I think, yeah, definitely the frequency and the way you go about it. I think, you know, if it's recorded, if it's like, oh, your recorder was, honestly, you are amazing, like, and it's that, like, imagine if you said that every time. I think that what can be so healthy and so uplifting, and can turn into, again, just a little bit like, oh, thank you. But definitely, I think the physical side is something that, obviously for us as well, it is an area that you have to be really careful in, because in that moment self-esteem will go, will rocket up, obviously, but then it can lead to slight misunderstandings. But
yeah. 100%.
Nat, question for you within that, because I've just thought of it, but I'm not entirely sure. Do you agree with me when I say this? That guys often can attach their identity a little bit more to what they do, so to kind of like things that they've done, so therefore that kind of means a lot more to them, whereas some girls might attach themselves a lot more, or their identity a lot more, to how they look, or the physical side of things. Do you get
legit me? Honestly, like, yeah, no, 100%. It's like that constant, I think, we've touched on it in I think we did an episode on toxic masculinity, that idea of identity being based on what we do, not who we are, of how good you are at doing that and stuff. So I think, as I said, it can be a very healthy thing to complement that, but if that's the focus of how a girl compliments a guy, then I think the easy mentality to slip into is, as we were talking about, if you are looking for someone to date, you create a false sense that these girls are looking for what you do, not who you are. And I think that's quite like a dangerous, insecurity that guys do have for this, for this kind of reason. So I think 100%, and I guess it goes the same for girls. I can't, speak on your behalf, but I think, these insecurities are a big reason why, speaking about for guys what they do, or for girls their appearance. And it works both ways, but we're just generalizing a little bit. But I think if you do focus on that a bit too much, it can lead, almost accidentally to more insecurities. Because you're like, oh, they like me for my sporting skills. I don't have any, but you're like, oh wow, and then you're like, oh, that's where my identity lies. And I think it's not true. It's in Jesus. But yeah.
I love that. A bit earlier on, you said about how, like, with being friends with girls and guys and all of that, it can sometimes be like, where are your intentions going, and where is this because you want a relationship, is this because you want a friendship? And sometimes naturally, just in those friendships, people can catch feelings. That's really normal. So how do you think, as guys, you would like us to navigate it if a guy was to get feelings for their friend who was a girl? So like, if you were to get feelings for one of your friends that was a girl, how would you want them to almost like act around you, react to maybe if you were to tell them all of that stuff, and just do it in a very nice
How
way?
would you like to be rejected?
Yeah, basically. But
How
still
do I
be
be
friends.
friend-zoned?
Yeah.
Carefully, and with the right intentions on display, like communicated very well. Easy said and done. Yeah. But out and honest, in the open, nothing like, none of this like fake easier reason to talk about, kind of sugarcoating it. None of that. Yeah.
It's genuinely just speaking from like a super honest place, I guess, of just being like, I guess reject someone by building them up, just like, you are so amazing in this way, and I really respect you for this and these boundaries, but I personally am just currently not in a stage in my life or a season in my life where I'm looking for that at the moment. But thank you so much. I think you're a great person. I think definitely leaving it at that is just a very honest yet uplifting and encouraging way to just be like, oh, thank you, but not at the moment. I think maybe also like complimenting the friendship can be a good way of being like, I really love our friendship at the moment, and right now I just feel like if we do step into something else, then that could be compromised, and I like really, really appreciate you as a friend. And it's that classic, like, as a friend, it's like, it's like a little bit painful, but when we use the term guarding our hearts and boundaries, it's like that is completely honoring that person. That is loving that person in such a good way, because I think that's probably the way that I would like to be.
None of these ways like seem all that like, I don't think I would want to get any of these ways, even like the nicest. Nat, you put it perfectly, but I would still like feel like shot in the heart if I was to get it. But like at the same time, I think, you know, I've known girls to drag out guys for really, really long time, just because they don't want to hurt them, and actually like it's going to hurt them so much more at the point that they've dragged it out to than at the offset, like sorry, we're mates, like I want to proceed like as mates, but like for now it's just mates. But yeah, I guess it's like hard to know like how best to do that, but I think 100%, I'm not a guy, but I think as a girl it's the same, like you want to be rejected at the off.
I think as well, off the bat of that, you did a great little precursor of what I was going to say anyway. Was just that obviously as well, once someone said to you that they may like you and then you've rejected them, I think it's important to know that you shouldn't really have that expectation of like your friendship's going to go back to exactly what it was before, because I think quite often we can think, oh cool, we're just going to be friends, and then you can act in this really friendly way towards them, and even that just kind of hurts a bit and cuts deep again, but also gives them kind of even more mixed messages. So on the flip side, how would guys like girls to navigate, like if we were to have feelings for one of our guy friends, like how would you want that to be navigated?
Yeah, I guess with the aim also that we still want to be like their friend. But
I think girls maybe are better at picking up on when someone's like on the more emotional side of things, generally speaking, like a bit more sensitive to that. Not saying all guys are completely naive, but a few of my friends are. So I can be. And I think to some extent, like I don't know, like it goes back to that protecting your emotions, but also separating out what is the like emotional component of that and what is God's truth about that, or what is the facts about it, like what is actually best. And when you can't separate those two out, it can get very messy, and you can be very just led astray by your feelings, and I think you can let them get the better of you in that. I that's one piece I think my mum taught me once, was just like for handling anything like where there are emotions involved, it's like what are your emotions telling you, what is the like, take out the emotions, what are the facts, which can be very helpful to make sense of a situation like that.
We love our mother's advice.
We do. We do.
I do think self-awareness is such a key to this whole topic. It's just like, I think a good question might be, it's so natural to catch feelings, right? You know, in a group setting, it's part of life, it's part of being a youth, it's part of being a student. You know, I think just acknowledging that that's okay firstly, but then also being self-aware to know why. Maybe is that, you know, have you been spending a bit more time together? And I think genuinely, like, because a simple coffee in church means a lot of different things. You know, I think we've all grown up in church, like it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So when the more time you leave it, I didn't like, it's all got to do with time. I think the earlier you do it, no matter how you go about it, it will save a lot of time and effort, because once you know, the moment feelings get involved, it is quite a slippery slope. You know, that simple coffee can turn into someone getting hurt. And I think to avoid that extremely awkward and painful conversation of just being like, you know what, you're pretty great, I do have some feelings for you, I think it just saves, firstly, you, as you know, Zac said, like, you know, it says in the Bible, love God, love yourself, and love others. Like, love God, that should be your priority, of course. Like, and loving yourself is saving yourself that effort and saving yourself that hurt of maybe being led on or accidentally leading someone else on, like by being self-aware and early on just being like, oh no, I've got feelings for you. You know, I think that will, easier said than done, of course. Like, obviously, like obviously it's so hard to do, but I think that is the way that would save quite a lot of time, you know.
Yeah.
And I think one last point on that topic as well, I'd say is to me specifically, but I'm sure it's not just a guy's thing, it's regardless, it really matters that you can trust the other person's intentions. I think once that gets clouded, then the trust isn't there, you know. You start to lose that. That does start to affect other things in the relationship, in the friendship, even if that is subtle. That can have the ability to snowball and get a lot worse very quickly once you kind of lose that ability to completely 100% trust their intentions, which is tough, because I think it's really, feelings are quite scary in that respect. Like, it gets very serious very quickly. Not scary, like, because obviously they're great, but it does, with the feelings comes up, there's suddenly a lot more is resting on the same situation. You know what I mean? It becomes a more high pressured. It becomes, you make yourself more vulnerable to getting hurt in some regard. You kind of open yourself up, which can be scary. And with that, it just means you've got to be so careful and do it right, which is so much easier said than done. Like I said at the beginning, it's a borderline minefield, but it can be navigated.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So I guess, like, from that, like, practically, like, a girl has caught feelings for you, she's a good mate, she wants to continue being a good mate, but she's just going to need a bit of time to get over it. What practically would you want her to do about that? I mean, she hasn't told you yet. Would you want her to tell you? I guess, yeah.
Probably immediately to not spend so much time together straight away. I think that can make it worse, I would say, immediately. Like, you catch one person in the friendship's caught feelings, the other one hasn't, but they continue to spend lots of time together. I think it would do some good to spend a little bit of time apart. Not necessarily like block them off the socials, never talk to them again, but but just to get some time away from that person, to clear your head, to clear your thoughts, and to work out what's going on, and from there work out if a conversation needs to be had. Don't know, Nat, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree. But yeah, definitely I would want them to tell me, because I think it's just, if it does go down the line and then she's like, oh, I've actually had feelings for a long time, then it's like, I as a guy would kind of feel, I would feel a bit bad actually in that moment, because of course boundaries are important for everyone. I think if as a guy you don't know, it's so easy to accidentally kind of be like, oh, we're really good friends, continue to have that friendship, but then every little thing that you do for that girl with those feelings, it could be very intense in that moment, I guess. So again, it would give that sense of like feeling a bit guilty because that wasn't communicated quite early on. So yeah, I think I would want them to communicate that quite early on. But,
yeah, that's good.
Amazing. Well, that is all our
Was that all our questions?
Yeah.
Exciting. Thank you, Zac and Nat from We Out Here Provibing. It has been lovely. We feel like we've got to chat to some aliens and ask them all our questions that we wanted to know. So that was lovely. But the conversation is not over yet.
We're not done.
We have a part 2 coming out. Zac and Nat are going to be grilling us, and that is going to be over on their podcast, We Out Here Provibing. Do go check it out, because it is great. I love them. Where can we find you? Tell us.
Zac. I'm getting all shy. Yes, we're on Spotify and also Apple Podcasts. We Out Here Provibing. New episodes every Sunday. We're on season 2 at the moment. But yeah, thank you so much for having us on Brian Grace. I've had a great time.
Me too.
Thank you for coming. Yeah. So yeah, go check that out. Check out our Instagram. It's at thrive.in.grace, and also their Instagram at
we_out_here_provibing.
oh, you went for the underscores, you went for the dots.
Dots is easier to say, I must admit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect. Well, thank you for joining us. We will see you for another episode next week.